Hello, my name is Josh. You clicked on my theory video. Prepare to watch. So The Princess Bride is my all-time favorite movie. To say any other movie would be above it would simply be inconceivable. There's one scene in the movie where a masked Wesley goes up against Vizzini in this epic battle of wits. The idea here is that Vizzini pours wine into two goblets, Wesley pours poison into one of them, and Vizzini has to decide which one contains the poison and which one does not. He gets to choose who drinks from which goblet. They both drink at the same time, and then we figure out which one is the victor and which one is dead. In the end, Wesley emerges victorious and admits to Buttercup that he had poisoned both goblets, but that he had developed an immunity to this specific poison. Only I think there's more to the story. I think Wesley managed to find a way to poison neither goblet, yet still defeat Vizzini in this battle of wits. So sit back, relax, and let me regale you with a tale of hidden intent and psychological deception.
As you wish.
Now, before getting into Wesley's strategy, I want to talk a little bit about Vizzini's plans here. Now, at first glance, it might seem like Vizzini is just spewing nonsense, that he has no way of actually deducing where the poison is, so he's just going back and forth, stalling, trying to find some way to figure out where is this poison. But there actually is some way that he can gain information from what he's saying. Now, most of the words are useless, are not helpful to him, but what is helpful is that he references the goblets back and forth. He says, I clearly can't choose the goblet in front of me. And then he says, I clearly can't choose the goblet in front of you. As he does this, he's not looking down at the goblets. He's looking directly into Wesley's eyes. As he says, I can't choose the goblet in front of me, he gets to see, how does Wesley react to this? Does he like this idea? Or does he not like this idea? And by going back and forth between the goblets, he's hoping that he can gain some difference in reaction between not choosing the goblet in front of me and not choosing the goblet in front of you, to figure out which one does Wesley want to be the case. And if he can figure that out, then he'll know which goblet he has to choose. The thing is, Wesley is calm. He has no problem here whether Vizzini chooses the goblet in front of him or the goblet in front of Wesley himself, because either way is the same outcome. So Vizzini ends up resorting to trickery. Being unable to glean enough information out of Wesley, he tricks him and he switches the goblets. That way he can see if Wesley is willing to drink from the goblet in front of him. That tells Vizzini that Wesley believes the goblet that was in front of him did not contain poison. And since Vizzini now knows that's the goblet in front of him, he now feels free to drink from that goblet as well, not realizing it makes no difference.
I was not a sportsman like you.
What Vizzini doesn't know, though, is that all of this is for nothing, because at this point, Wesley had already won. You see, at the beginning, Wesley starts it off by saying, pour the wine. This may seem like just getting things set up, but in reality, Wesley was testing Vizzini. Testing him to see, is he willing to take commands? If I tell him to do something, is he going to do it? Or is he going to stop and question every detail? Vizzini doesn't hesitate. He pours the wine. Well, this tells Wesley that the little details, Vizzini will take this to just be the setup for this battle of wits. And that gives Wesley the advantage. After the wine is poured, Wesley pulls a packet out of his pocket. He pops open the lid and hands it over immediately to Vizzini and says this.
Inhale this, but do not touch.
Inhale, but do not touch. What he is doing here is he's getting Vizzini to literally inhale poison. He had just opened this packet. The fumes from the poison would be inside. And Vizzini doesn't just smell it. He listens. He does what Wesley tells him. He inhales it. He takes a big whiff. He reacts slightly to it after taking that whiff and then says, I smell nothing. Well, we know it's odorless and tasteless, but that doesn't mean it doesn't get into his system through inhaling. And the whole point of do not touch is to get Vizzini off his guard. Vizzini at this point is willing to take instructions on Wesley. And so to say, inhale but do not touch, it sounds like it's saying, okay, touching this is the problem. But you can inhale it, you can listen to me. And Vizzini does. The result is this poison is already, in small quantities, in his system. But it does not kill him right away. It is in such a small quantity that it's not enough to take him out. And that's where the wine comes in. With the iocane powder in a small quantity already in his system from that big inhale, Vizzini's already pretty much dead.
Mostly dead.
Okay, fine. Mostly dead. The thing is, it's not in great enough quantity to kill him quickly enough for this to end. But there's something you can add that can speed things along. You see, people are warned not to take alcohol with medicines because it enhances the effects of the medicines and can make them dangerous in large quantities. What happens with alcohol is anything that impacts your nervous system, it gets boosted by the consumption of alcohol. Well, if iocane powder affects Vizzini's nervous system, then the addition of alcohol into his system would enhance those effects. It would speed up the process. And the result being that Vizzini doesn't need to drink a goblet of poison for this to take effect. The poison's already inside of him. In order for him to lose, he just needs to drink wine. And what's in both those goblets, he already knows there's wine. Drinking that alcohol speeds up the effects of the poison to the point where Vizzini then, mid-laugh, falls over, leaving Wesley the victor.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Now, I'm not saying that Wesley didn't build up some sort of a tolerance to iocane powder over the previous few years. It's possible that he did. The thing is, they label this as one of the most deadly poisons known to man. To build up a full immunity to one of the deadliest poisons feels unlikely to me. Now, depending on the poison, depending on how it works, a lot of poisons actually work the other way. Small amounts of the poison can build up in your system over time. It really depends on how the poison works. But even if that's not the case with iocane powder and you can build up a tolerance, it's much more likely that that's what this would be. A tolerance. He would still have some negative effects, it just may not be quite as severe for him. It may be enough for him to survive, but to say he built up an immunity would not be completely accurate.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
So that brings up the question of why would he lie to Buttercup? I think he lied to Buttercup for the same reason that he didn't reveal himself immediately to her. At this point, he had been gone for many years without any contact. He finally makes it back to discover that she's engaged to be married to a prince. And then she'd been kidnapped by people from another country. There's a lot going on here, and he does not know exactly where everyone stands. Until he knows where Buttercup's heart actually lies and what is actually going on with all these parties, he can't reveal himself to her. And at the same time, he can't fully trust her. If after all these years, her heart towards him was untrue, and she is actually in love with Prince Humperdinck, and she decides to side with him, he would not want her knowing there's a poison nearby that can kill him. To admit to her that he had an immunity to this poison would take that out of her hands as a possible tool against him should she desire it. He is telling her, I am the dread pirate Roberts. I am an enemy. I am your biggest enemy. Whether she believes him then, or once discovering it's Wesley, decides that Wesley's not the one she wants, there's a lot of room here for her to decide it would be better to get rid of him. So he would not want her thinking, this poison is dangerous for me. Here's a weapon you can use. So to tell her that he has an immunity, takes that off the table, and keeps him in a point of control until he can assess the situation better. To me, this was a fun scene. We just came off of this epic sword fight where Wesley managed to beat the Spaniard who had trained almost his entire life at sword fighting, and then he beats a giant at wrestling, and now he comes face to face against Vizzini, who believes himself to be one of the greatest minds in all of history, and he beats him at a game of wits. So to me, a game of wits would need so many layers to truly live up to its potential. So for me, this is how I choose to believe that scene went, and when I watch it, in my mind, that's what happened. But I would love to hear your thoughts on the topic. If you think there's a difference to what I described, if you agree that the movie was honest and that he had actually poisoned both goblets, I would love to hear your comments in the comments down below. And as always, thank you for watching.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle.